So today I'm really excited to share with you a company that I've recently discovered called Realm. I really, really wish that I'd known about them about a year and a half ago. I would already be having some really beautiful bathrooms. So today I'm talking to Amberly, who is VP of Advisory at Realm, and we're going to hear all about Realm today, how they can help you if you're doing remodel, construction, adding an ADU, which is what I'm interested in. And I wanted to learn more and find out how she can help me. Hi, Amberly.
Hi, Maria. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm glad you're here too. So, can you just tell me a brief overview of what Realm does and what services Realm offers?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Realm is ultimately a tech company, and our mission is to help homeowners make smart decisions, specifically with renovations. And so, we really see ourselves as renovation advisors, and we'll help a homeowner with everything from the research. So, what are you allowed to do on your property? How much should it cost? What's the return on investment going to be? To actually matching you with vetted contractors, architects to get multiple bids, and then being there to ensure the project is completed successfully. So, yeah, that's our mission.
Not wow. Okay, so is that in place of a general contractor that somebody would hire, or you work with general contractors?
It's a really good question. We work with general contractors. We have a network of highly vetted contractors. Same, we have architects, we have landscapers, really any professional you would need for any type of renovation. And we partner with them, making sure that the homeowner has somebody quality to actually do the work, but we sort of oversee it and make sure the project is set up for success.
Great. Honestly, I wish I'd known about you guys before I had to deal with my bathroom problem. So but that's a whole thing. But I'm really excited today to talk to you about adding an ADU to a property. So that's really where I'm really interested in adding an ADU for a lot of different reasons. And I want to see how you can help me with that.
Yeah, this is your first one, right? You don't have one on another property.
I don't. I have a detached office, which I wouldn't consider an ADU because it doesn't have any plumbing or anything. But having a full, self-contained rental unit or a unit that like my mom could live in, I haven't done that yet. But it's something we've been talking about for years.
Yeah, they're really special for so many reasons. Whether it's aging in place or rental income, they're pretty amazing.
Yeah. Last week when we first talked about doing this, I shared with you an address of a property that we own, and I've been considering adding the ADU to it. But honestly, I just haven't got started. I don't know where to start. So I want to see what you came up with.
Yeah, so I put some notes into a report, which we can share my screen and kind of show. This is a really lightweight version of what we do for our homeowners, but it kind of gets to the gist of all the questions that you wanted to know. And we can always add detail to it if it's helpful and you're going to pursue your ADU.
Okay. So one of my first questions is, how big of an ADU can I fit?
Yep. Okay, so there's like some nuances to this. I'll leave this up, but the gist of it is your yard is tight. And the main thing what we looked at and you asked me is like, could I do a 2-story? It looks like unfortunately not, but you also have more space than it seemed like you did. So you could fit a 600 square foot detached ADU at the rear of the property line, which is pretty big. It's a very comfortable 1-bedroom. And the next thing that you could do to get even more space there is add a loft. It depends, and I couldn't find this doing fast research, so we could look into it a little bit further. You'd definitely be allowed a storage loft, and there are ways to reinforce that. So you can use the space how you need to use the space. We'll leave it at that. And sometimes you can do a livable square feet in your loft. You could easily get, another 300 square feet where a bed could go if they'll allow that, or at least you get all your storage up there to make that 600 square feet feel bigger.
Oh, yeah, that storage loft would be, I have one in my office, so that'd be great.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
If your lot wasn't size constrained, you could technically go up to 1,200 square feet. You just definitely don't have that space. So the next thing that I looked at was like, okay, would there be more space if you went attached? Which the answer is technically yes, right? Because your setbacks, sometimes if you were going to do an attached ADU, your primary dwelling has more aggressive setbacks. That's not really the case for you. And so instead of having to keep space between the house and the detached, you could just build right off. And I can share actually some numbers on that in a few minutes, but okay. I think it'll be more expensive. And I think the ROI might end up being less because you're then suddenly going from a single family home with a detached unit to more of a duplex situation, less privacy. The front part of the house would probably lose access to the backyard. So you could get a bigger ADU, but it might be more of a hassle.
Right. Then the main house wouldn't really have a backyard. They'd have a side yard, and that'd be it. I had some other questions. I don't know if you have these figured out, but like one of my questions was, can I have separate utilities? So if this was going to be a rental and I wanted that person to have their own, pay their own electric bill or pay their own water bill and those things, is it even possible to have it separate?
Yeah, you can have it separate. Livermore allows it. So
Oh,
unless there's like something crazy about your specific utilities that we wouldn't be able to see on site, you should be able to. And it's so much nicer when you can just bill separately and like leave it at that instead of having to just decide
yes.
how to split it. It can be a little complicated.
Right, because it gets a little, somebody has to have those utilities in their name, and if it's in one,
Yes.
and if they're both rented, then who takes on that major responsibility? So that's been a concern. So is it
Mhm.
really expensive to add the separate utilities?
Usually not, but if there was any reason why you'd have to like retrench to like actually, so you can usually just add the meters, right? Which is
Okay.
probably a couple $1,000s. But if you
Okay.
actually have to do some like crazy trenching out to the back, which isn't really about the separate meter, it's just about how complicated it's going to be to dig back there, that could be pretty
Mm.
cost prohibitive. But there's nothing crazy about your lot, like no crazy slope. Your house isn't
Yeah.
super far from the street. I think it would be okay and included in some of these like average estimates.
Okay. The lot's sort of narrow and it is only a one car garage, so we only have a single car driveway. Would
Mhm.
adding an ADU require to add parking, like additional parking somewhere?
Yes, it shouldn't require additional parking, but that is one where Livermore was a little bit vague. So I'm have actually one of my colleagues looking into it so we can get you a definitive answer.
I've heard, and I don't know how true this is, I've heard a couple of rumors, and one of them is that ADUs require solar power now. Is
Yep.
that the case? Is that everywhere?
So technically, yes. What happened in 2022, which is probably not my advice, and I think they're going to tighten up in 2023, is a lot of the local municipalities didn't actually enforce it. So I've actually helped, I don't know, 50 plus people with ADUs that they did not end up having to put solar on it, even though you're supposed to. But the 2023 building code is tightening up on energy efficiency. So I think that if you're building this year, it's best to just plan for it, get ahead of it, and do it. But that doesn't mean you absolutely have to necessarily.
Now, does that mean adding solar to the main house as well, or just to the ADU part that you're
You
adding?
can usually just do it to the ADU. Now, if your main house has solar, then you have to put it on your ADU, but it's mostly about new construction, the solar rules. So if you're building something new, solar is required.
Got it. Okay. So a few months ago, I went out to Texas and I got to look at a factory where they make ADUs in the factory, and they're like almost like Lego. You can drive them over on a flatbed truck and assemble them in a couple of hours in a backyard. So, and
Wow.
then there's manufactured, pre-manufactured homes, container homes. I've seen people do all
Mhm.
kinds of things that aren't standard building. Are
Yeah.
there any recommendations or restrictions or things like that with building an ADU in a neighborhood?
So usually it's not about restriction. I'm a little bit of a skeptic on manufactured and prefab, and I will tell you why. Now, it doesn't mean my opinion is not end all be all. Some people love them. We actually work with a couple people that provide them, so this is really kind of a personal me opinion. But at the end of the day, if you're going to get a high quality prefab or manufactured home, you usually don't end up saving that much money. So your primary advantage is the reduced time on site of the actual construction. But when you account for the fact that they're still going to have to trench the utilities back there, they're still going to have to put the unit together. Even then, you're looking at a difference in months, but you're not looking at a difference in like 6 months. It's like 1 month versus 2 or 3 months if you have a good, fast contractor. And when you calculate the shipping cost, the gas for that truck, right, to crane it over your house, those things just kind of stack up. So I'm usually like, if you can get something custom, get something custom if it's the same price. But usually the only time people will run into issues with prefab or manufactured homes, tiny home is different, but prefab or manufactured ADU specifically, if it's coded as an ADU, is if you're in like an HOA or historic zone where your unit has to look like your main house.
Right. Yeah.
That's the biggest blocker that I've ever seen. Other times, which are weird, which wouldn't apply to you, is like if you live on a really narrow street, the truck can't actually deliver the unit. Or if your house is set really far back from the street, the crane won't be able to reach it.
Mm,
But those are the main things.
right.
So it's really like, is there one that you love? Does the cost make sense? And does saving some of that time on site really valuable? Then go for it. I'm just like, I'd want custom if it was going to be the same price.
Right. Well, that would make sense because then you can get it exactly the right size to fit
Yeah.
exactly the spot and everything. So you
Exactly.
said it's different than tiny homes. So can you just touch on that a minute? Like, how is it different? How are tiny homes different from just
Yes.
building a small ADU?
So I'm not an expert on tiny homes. I'm sure that they're like, I work with a partner actually whose name is Tiny Homes and they do ADUs. So it's really like the nuanced, if it is like legally a tiny house, not an ADU, there's very different legislation. The state has made it pretty easy. There's still complications, but pretty easy to add an actual ADU. But tiny homes legislation is still kind of all over the map. I think one of the biggest things about tiny homes is that it's like movable, even if it's not on wheels. I don't know. I'm not an expert, but I know the rules are a little bit different.
Like not completely permanent. It's possible to relocate it maybe. Okay, got
Yes,
it.
I think that's it.
I've always been curious about that.
Somehow I ended up on this funny like tiny home Facebook group, and I was like all in the weeds with the tiny home community for a little while, but I've moved past that in my life.
They're so cute. I mean, they're really cute. I don't know if I could live in one, but they're really cute. Did you happen to get an idea about what this project would cost at 600 square feet?
I did. So I actually threw in a couple options if we pull the report back up. One of those is doing a garage conversion, which you didn't ask me, and I'm realizing now this would be bigger than your garage. You said single car. I definitely estimated 2 cars, but then I put in, attached a couple different sizes for a backyard home. These won't fit in your yard, but I figured we put some options up. Okay. These all assume mid-tier finishes, all inclusive. So everything from those architectural plans that you're going to need, city permitting, unless your city has something crazy come up, and then all the construction, mid-tier finishes and fixtures. These things can swing quickly if you're going high end or you're going low end, but these are average costs. And then actually you can't really see my columns here. So that's the average cost. And then on the side is the home value increase. So a lot of them are pretty close to break even right off the bat, which is good. Close, like you're gonna be in the green very quickly, and you'll immediately get that rental income. So it's usually worthwhile.
Yeah, definitely. No, that makes sense.
No, so, good. Yeah.
I mean, this is a huge thing. So I've been working with some seniors recently who are looking into moving into assisted living, or they need a little bit more care, but they don't need the huge 4-bedroom house that they have anymore. And so they've been exploring this option as well, especially one in particular that I'm thinking about, because they have a pretty large lot and it's on a corner. Mm-hmm. And so one of the things we talked about was if they had taken a loan out and built themselves an ADU to live in and then rent out the main house, they could generate, not just pay back that mortgage payment, but also generate themselves some income to pay for extra care that they might need. And so I might actually connect you with them for that, because it's something that they're thinking about doing.
Yeah, it would definitely help. And that's the other thing we pull is like, we'll include the rental income. So for your example, I really just pulled like different ADU rentals, but we could also show them, okay, what's the rental income going to be for renting out your house? And what does that look like annually? Something that I usually put in here too, if, for customers, if I was spending a little more time on it, it's like, okay, years to recoup the cost that you're putting into the ADU. So we can give you like really as much data as you want. So you're like, all right, I feel really good about this decision, and there's no unknowns.
That's great that the rental income is in there too, because that makes it's a big consideration, especially if you're moving. Like I'm always thinking forward. Like I'm thinking about the finances. How does this look in 20 years, 30 years? When my kids, they're probably not going to be able to afford to live here. Let's be realistic. It's too expensive. Yep. So having a property where we have something like this built during those years when they're getting established in a career and they wanted to stay living in the Bay Area, this is something they could live in, or I could live in if they wanted to live in a house or something. So I'm always thinking about that. It's not always just about the cost and the rent and the bottom line, but thinking forward. So that's really good to know what the increased value of the home is too. It makes a big difference.
Yeah, me too. I don't even have kids yet, but I'm already thinking about like, all right, how am I going to afford an ADU so that my future kids have these options and all this flexibility?
Yes, I know. Maybe I don't know. I've actually been accused of being pre-planning too much person. That's just who I am. I want to know all the options, and I want to think of all the scenarios and pick the best option now, because I've seen what happens when you don't plan ahead. So
it can't hurt to be too prepared. But
no, exactly. So if somebody wanted to get started, if their project does it need to be a big project like an ADU with Realm, or could it just be a bathroom remodel? Could it be something smaller?
Yeah, it can really be any project. I would say that we are best at projects right now that are over like the $15,000 mark. I know that probably sounds like, wow, that's such a random number. It's because those are the best vendors that we have. And we're looking for vendors that are going to be really good at the small things. But we're so concerned about license, insurance, track record, that sometimes it's harder to get a really good general contractor to want to do a really small project. But anything, and even if you're close, like even if you're at that 10K mark, it's worth talking to us. We offer a free consultation, like no commitment. We'll put some links in so that anyone on your channel can jump in and just chat with us. But even landscaping, you need to redo your flooring, you have a plumbing project, any of those things we're here to help with. We charge an advisory fee. It really functions as a deposit. There are a couple different packages. One is $4.99 if you want that report, and it's called the Get It Done package. And it starts with the report. You tell us anything you want research. So if you're like, I know I want to do an ADU, tell me every size. I might want to do my kitchen. I might want to do my bathroom. We'll include all of that in the report for you. Wow. Then we take you through the bidding process, and then we're there while the projects get done. And you don't have to do them all, right? So we've worked with homeowners and will work with homeowners over multiple years on a long-term property plan. Then on the flip side, if you know exactly what you want to do, we have another package, which is $2.99 called Finish What You Started. And that just really means like, I don't need the report, but I want help with the bidding. I want help making sure construction goes really smoothly. But anyone that comes from you is $100 off either package. So just
awesome.
To tell us that they're coming from your channel.
That's fantastic. And honestly, like you have no idea. Like I'm listening to you and I'm thinking, I wish I knew about you a year ago, because if you had any idea that the nightmare I've gone through with trying to get our bathrooms remodeled.
Oh no! Are you now? Did you finally get it?
No. We're almost there. I think we're almost there. We're almost there to get started. So we have the tile finally ordered. We have the cabinet guy finally took the measurements, but yeah, it was terrible. I mean, maybe part of it was that we were in COVID times, and it was really hard to get a contractor to come out at all to even look at it. And I was dealing with insurance too. So, but I have a feeling you guys probably could have helped with the insurance piece too.
We usually will help. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm really sad of all the time that I lost trying to maneuver it on my own, because it hasn't been fun at all. No, it's terrible. And I really have felt like, well, could we just live with this bathroom leak? You just live without using the shower. We have like for over a year already. So, but no, it's been terrible. But
such a pain. I mean, it's all these horror stories. That's why Realty exists, right? It's like so painful for people.
The contractors come and they never give a bid.
Yep.
They'll come and you think, oh, finally I got somebody, and then they don't show up. It's terrible. It's really
sometimes
terrible.
They even act all excited. They give you a great verbal price, and then they ghost for months. And you're like, well, I guess I have to start over. Yeah, nope.
Months.
So, but the good news is like there are great contractors out there. We've worked really hard to find them and partner with them. And when things need to get chased down, like we do that work so that you don't have to worry about it.
Well, I think that's the key right there, is that you're already working with these people. So you already know who they are. You've already established a relationship with them. And the average homeowner needing, a bathroom remodel done or adding an ADU, you're really at a huge disadvantage, because you're just calling people, you're asking maybe people or neighbors or somebody. I called somebody because I saw a truck down the street. Still couldn't get them to come over and even give me an estimate. And it was just, I didn't have that. I have a job. I don't have time to hunt down people who probably should, who don't want the job. So,
right. It's like
time saving is huge. And plus it's not something I know. I mean, I know about selling real estate, but building and contracting it, that's not my wheelhouse. I can, maybe more than some people, but not something to do full time. So to have somebody like you guys doing it for me, oh my gosh. And
that reminds me of the other thing I didn't say, about our packages. Like our goal is actually not to make money directly off of homeowners. So if you end up using one of our vendors on your project, you get your advisory fee back. So if you do the $4.99 or the $2.99, we actually give it back to you. And then we make a little bit of money on the project. We make a couple percentage points from the contractor for helping with all this upfront legwork, for bringing them a homeowner that's really ready to do the project, and for supporting, And so it's really free when you end up moving forward with something too.
Well, and that's great, because you're paying. I mean, now that I'm understanding, I did not know that before, but that's like really good information, because you're getting the services up front for a relatively small amount of money. And then you are paying into it sort of, because the contractor is working with you, but you're getting the job done. I mean, they're not going to make the money unless the job actually happens. So that's a big piece. Yeah. So thank you for that. That's really, really good information. So I would love to talk to you again about some other projects.
If you love that.
Okay, so I think I'm going to talk to the person I was thinking of, the elderly person that was going to consider adding ADU, and see if we can't. Maybe you could analyze their project, and we could run through it again on another video and show people how that one goes.
Let's do it. That
sounds
great.
Awesome. Well, thank you for talking to me today, and put link in the description if people want to get in touch with you and sign up for one of your packages.
Great. This is so fun. Thank you.
Thank you.